Hey, it's Mike with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Thursday. It's June 28th. This will be our chart lesson for the day, and this is going to wrap up our week. No chart lessons on Fridays, and it was an interesting day. It looked like we were going to be stuck in this range all day, but we broke up here and failed like you would expect, but we bounced and went higher. So once you start going higher, I would look for at least a measured move based on the first range, and that gets you to right in here. But we actually went higher than that, probably by 8 points or so. But you got a clear trend working up through, and this may be a spiking channel. I'm guessing that it's really a two-tiered channel because you really would have had a break here and a break here, but you still kept going higher, and then you had a big overshoot, and you kind of reversed, and then you were heading towards a retest of the high there, it looks like. But that's actually most of that move up's in the overnight session, the reopening after at 3:30 or whatever. Um, so it was really hard to tell if this was. You always draw your trend line off the first two swings, and that gives you this one. And then of course it fits perfectly off the highs here. You can see, and then you put your midline in there. So whether or not this was a spiking channel that just continued to push higher, or if it's two-tiered, it's hard to say. But in my opinion, this is a two-tiered channel because we had too many breaks here and prices kept going higher and finally overshot. And a lot of times you don't get a retest on an overshoot, even though it looks like we're trying to retest that now in the overnight. But really, we spent most of the day going sideways. We didn't really head higher until noontime, and I would say that's a strong trend from noon afterwards. So we had an uptrend from that point on, but earlier in the day we just had a range. So you really need to play the range until this point, and then you wanted to just go along. So hopefully that makes sense. Again, measure this part and look for your target, but we far surpassed that, but we had a trend going here. So still you want to look at this target until it's not in play anymore, and you can see we ended up closing right at that target basically. So just hadn't been after 3 o'clock, you might have looked at a short up here, but it's well after 2 o'clock rather, not 3 o'clock. But anyway, let's talk about the trades. And you had to be very patient this morning. We didn't have a really good setup until almost 9 o'clock, 8:45 or so. And there's a couple of green ones in there that you might consider. But let me back out. We'll talk about these trades, and we'll wrap up our day and wrap up our week. First trade I saw today was this little breakout pullback long. Notice we traded down, and you got a failed second entry short right here when prices broke above this. Notice that new low, and then you go first entry and then second entry. And so when prices broke above, but that's right back into the highs. So I'm not comfortable going long right there, right into those highs. But when it breaks up, pulls back, and gives you that little breakout pullback, and notice this is actually the bar I would use. That's too bearish there, but this bar is relatively bullish, and it bounces right off that previous resistance right there. You can see it, and it closes on its very high. So you might go long right there, but your stop would still have to go below the two matching lows right there. Let me make this still a little small. But you can see, I believe that, let me move this. You see those two matching lows right there, still kind of small and hard to see. There, maybe you can see it, but that's where your stop would have to go below because that's really the signal bar there. But you might consider that. It's just something to look at. I'm not crazy about it, but I marked it because this has been a huge move down, and we do have a close outside and a new low, and then a failed second entry short, and then another little jog back. Even though it didn't break lower, I still like it. So, and of course we start moving up. There's another little jog back right here. We were broke lower right off that trend line, but that bar's too neutral. And you can see it took a little minute and it pushed on up. So you're way away from the EMA. So just wait and see if you get that reversal. And you finally get a clear close outside, a move to a new high. You push down once. And even though you don't break higher here, you get a higher low. So that's a second entry short. So you could look at that as a lower high. And so I marked that one. But because it didn't break higher, again, it's not a perfect setup. So I marked it in green. It would have been a nice entry if you took it, and the bottom just kind of falls out of it there, and we head right back to the other side. If you didn't get in there, you really didn't get an opportunity to enter it. And then notice what happens. We had this low, we test it once, and we get that double test and a higher low right here and a bullish bar. Still a little ways from the EMA. That's an ideal place to try to get long. And what you hope is that you get them to move like this back up, and actually for the most part you do. And so if you just caught either one of those trades or both of those trades, you were probably done for the day. You had to be patient and wait on them. This one's not really high probability setup, but it still meets our criteria. You had your close outside, move to a new high, and that's technically a higher low. And so if you took that one, and it's a second entry, but this one was a little easier to read, a little easier to see, and was a much better entry than this one. Therefore, it's blue instead of green. So if you just caught that one trade, you probably had what you needed. But notice that you're moving up and you're working down, and you make a new low there, and you would think you would probably go lower there. But this is the first close outside this trend line, so you may get that retest. And so you don't want to be going short right into that EMA when you're looking for a retest. So when it breaks lower and turns and goes up the other way, go long right there. If you got enough room to get out, and of course it takes off, and where does it turn down? Right off the high resistance up there. But that was a quick, easy move on a little trap, and then it turns back down. You would like to try to get short in here, but you really just don't have a real good setup. You actually have one possibility here. It's just an inside bar. This is really your signal bar, and it's very it's almost bullish to neutral because it closed so far off its high, but it's such a big bar. But when you made this next bar, you might have considered entering. It looks like a repeat pattern almost here. It's that little inside bar, although this was a much more bearish bar that it was an inside bar of than this bar was. This had a little more bullish tint than this other one over here. But you still might consider it. I didn't mark it. We're really kind of going sideways here. You could look at it like a little breakout pullback short too. So you might consider it. It's another one that's, if it has some possibilities. Again, your stop would have to go above the previous bar because that's the high of the swing. And then you get a failed second entry long right here and a lower high. So you might again consider going short right there. But even though it's a trap, we're just really kind of going sideways here. You did come off the top, so this one is a much more if you're going to enter, this one is real close to being red. So if you entered this one, I wouldn't have any problem with it. I definitely wouldn't enter this one because you're going sideways by that point. Same thing here. Too much support and sideways congestion. So this one is real close. You could argue for that one to be red. And as long as we probably waited today, that was probably the best trade of the day other than this long over here. So I'll go ahead and change it to red. It's real close. So we'll make it red because it is. Notice the new high, first entry, second leg down, second entry. It fails. It's technically not a failed second entry long, but it's also a little break because that's congestion right there, and it's also a little breakout pullback short. So there's some reasons to like that one. especially when you hadn't had. I mean, if you had some more really nice trades here, I'd say skip that one maybe. But that's a pretty good setup considering what we've been looking at. And of course, we're moving down, and I even like this one, although you got to assume it would be very aggressive because you got a trend line and it's obvious it's holding all the way down. But notice how you're going sideways and you get that little drop. Sometimes that leads to the big move, but we're not back down to the lows yet. The trend line's still in play, so I just think it's too risky. Notice that you do get a higher low here. You push through the EMA, pull back, and you get that higher low and a nice bullish bar. So I do like that when there's room to get out before you get back to here. And you may go back up to here if this trend line doesn't hold right here. Unfortunately, it does turn down there. But you probably couldn't have got in this one because it jumped right over and it didn't overlap. So you probably would have had to put a limit buy order in. And I don't know if you'd have got filled or not. It just depends on. I don't think you'd have got filled on my chart. Maybe on yours is a little different, but you probably wouldn't have got filled. But notice it does turn down again and close right inside that trend line. And you got a new low, first entry, second entry. And so that trend line's still in play. I like going short right there. And that was another nice move that you would have had a runner on. And I would have exited right down here. And of course we bounce. And notice first entry, second entry, and basically that's two legs up, and you could consider that a failure. And big bullish bar. It's a huge bar. I mean, I don't even know how many ticks are in that bar. Let's see. That's a 15 tick bar, so that's a huge bar, but it does still fit the criteria. So I'm marking it, but I don't know if I'd want to take that or not with that big bar. And then we pull back again right here. Not a very good signal bar, but it's right into the previous highs. And so you'd be better off to wait and see if you get shorts up here. And notice you got your close outside. Now you got two measured legs up. It was tempting to enter here, and if you did, you would have got burned. But I like this one because you get a nice bullish bar that breaks and turns, and look how far away you are from the EMA. Same thing here, but now you got at least three pushes up, and you got that little extra push up that doesn't go very far. So if you entered here, you would have just got burned. You generally want to wait on that lower high, but now you're really far away, and you're closer to two measured legs. There's your first leg. There's your second one. You still don't quite have it, but when you were right here, you weren't even close. So just something to think about. Another way to measure this one too is to measure this leg and look for a measured leg from here. And that puts you right up in the same vicinity too, but that could have led you still to take that trade. And so if you did take that one, you probably got burned. But when it makes one more little quick move up and it can't go but a couple of ticks and turns down, it gives you that big bearish bar, I'd probably risk it there. And a lot of times I'd probably risk that one, be honest with you. So you could have got tripped up there, but the best option is to wait on the lower high, which comes right here, and you got a big bearish bar. Just go short. Really, the trigger would have been when it went below that bar right there. So you may let it break below this one and drop a limit order back here where you would have gotten filled and let it back up a little bit, but you could have just put a sell stop there. You still would have gotten out. And really, I thought we'd go lower, but it bounces and it goes higher. So you just never know. And notice you get a new low, first entry, second entry, but that failed second entry, you got to go long right into those highs, and it held twice again there. And this is another thing too. This one was very tempting. This could fool just about anybody because that's a failed break higher out of a range, and then you get a double test. It's really, you didn't get your previous test is here and you pushed on through there. So it's not really technically a double test because you would need a test here and then and then you test it twice more. But you've had some support across there, so it looks like a double test. Usually it'll probably act like one. It's a second entry short. It's a big bearish bar. But notice this one goes a little higher too, and it is an inside bar to here. But the big thing is you got that trend line working up, and you can see it's working there. And prices actually gapped over that at first. They did end up backing up some there. But when you get those little gap closes and opens that go through those lines, it generally tells you got it in the right place. And so that would steer me away from that one. Unfortunately, you can't go long on that trap though, because it's right back into this. Wouldn't have mattered, but you don't know that ahead of time. And then of course you're coming sideways here, and you get that jog up, and you get another jog up. I marked this one. It's a relatively bearish bar. We did get what looks like a close outside. It's not super convincing. It should be more like that right there. But it is nevertheless a close outside. And then you get another close outside here, and then we push up. And so it looks a lot, it's not an exact repeat pattern, but it looks a lot like this being your, another leg up, another push up, and you're still a long way away from the EMA. What I really liked about this one, I don't have my line on here, not because it's a new high, but it's a failed break higher. And you can see that we've had these couple of closes, but now you're just kind of going sideways there. And you get this failed breakout. So that's a chance, and that's a relatively bearish bar. It's not perfect, but that's a chance to get short way away from the EMA on a failed breakout. And so that's the reason I marked that. When you get a lower high here, but it's right into the EMA, and then you get you really got a failed second entry long when this bar went lower. So this one's hard to, there's a couple of different ways you could play this one. If it went higher here and then turns and comes down, you're probably okay if you went short there, because your stop has to go above that high. But I'm not sure if it went lower first and then turned up, or went out and then turned down. So you could have gotten burned on that one. I wasn't trading during this period right here, so I'm just reading this after the fact on this particular setup here. And so I'm not sure. Most of the times I probably would have taken that, but the fact that this just bounced off the support area and went back up through the EMA, it's still a good sign that it shot on through the EMA like that. But if you didn't enter there, and then you get this second entry short right below here, that's the reason I like that one. It's a second entry. But this is a failed second entry long here, depending on how that played out. And I'm not sure how it played out, I'll be honest with you. So you could have gotten fooled there, or it might have played right into your hands to enter short there. Either way. So that's just one that, if you were watching it, you'll know. If you were trading during that time period, you'll know whether it was how it played out. So, and if you got burned there, not much you can do. That's, I'd take that setup most times, because that looks like a true failure, and you get a good chance to go short right there. Although, notice what happened here. It did gap over right there. Notice how it closed and then opened, and it was trading up. And so you would expect prices to pull back and try to fill that. And so that's another thing to think about. And so it could have gone higher from here. This, and you're looking for a possible failed break lower, because this is, let me back up a little bit, put this back on there. So we're going sideways right there. So you might expect it to go higher. So you might have even considered a long there on a second entry, especially with that little trap there. So, but I doubt you'd have got in that one without it backing back up. And on a breakout like that, I don't think I would have risked that. So I don't think you probably would go long there, but that may keep you from going short, because you would expect it to back up and try to fill that little gap before it does go higher. And in the end, it just, you can tell by that time it's starting to look bearish, and you get this next second entry right here. So I like that one. So that's a long and complicated explanation, but that's a screwy setup right there that could work a lot of different ways. So I wanted to explain all of those different things about it. So, and if you catch this one, this is another nice move, but you by this time it also looks a little like congestion, so that might have been enough reason just to totally skip that trade. Because notice there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's not really a true doji there. This bar closed closer to its low. This one closed closer to its low. This one closed on its low. Lots of stem up high, but there are 4 bars there, so it looks a lot like congestion, and it's real close to being congestion there. But I just think prices were trying to get back in this little range and couldn't. There was too much selling pressure, so that leads you more to going short again too. So anyway, enough on that one. There's actually, let me talk about, notice how there is the new swing highs here, and you might have argued that this is like a new swing high, but I'd just count that as one swing, and then there's your true failed second entry long, but that is a true doji right there, and you got 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's definitely congestive. We're a little bit away from the EMA, so it could break lower and turn back up. And then now you're way down here. By the time you get a second entry right here, you're just going sideways. There's no reason to enter short there. And it bounces. And you really just don't get a good chance to get long here either. Notice that new low, first entry. There's a second entry short, but you don't want to go long with all those matching highs there right into the EMA. It works, but you don't know that. Then it pulls back. And this is a new low, and you get a failed second entry short here, but you're way away from the EMA. You're not even coming off the midline, if that is a midline. And so it could be that, at this point you might be thinking that might still be the trend line, because this might be a spiking channel. And so I just don't think you want to go long way up there. It would have worked, I believe, but it wouldn't. You would have had to ride all this out before it finally pushed higher. So there is a little drop lower here, but then you're right back into those highs. It is off the EMA, but you expect prices to be coming back over here. And then you finally get a pullback, a little breakout pullback with a nice bullish bar that bounces off the upper part of the resistance that now acts as support off the EMA. It's a higher low. There's plenty of room to get out, and this one took off, so that would have been another good setup. And then this one is real close. You could argue for it to be green too. I left it blue because notice that there's a low, and you tested that once, you tested it twice. There's a new low there, so there's a first entry short, a second entry short. So you had a failed second entry short with that one more little jog that failed, and then a bullish bar. And that's usually a good sign. And again, you could almost say, hey, on a smaller picture, that's a double test, because you had a low there that you tested it once, you went up, you came back and tested it again and went higher. And there's actually a failed second entry short there, but your measured move was already here, and there's too much chance that it breaks higher there and fails and turns back down. And that got you into the 2 o'clock hour. So it was not the easiest day. If you weren't reading this properly, you could have got chopped all to pieces all in here, because there's a few clear lows up here. And there's a couple of a few clear highs up here and a few clear lows down here. But you're really making lower highs all the way down through here. So you had a little bit of a bearish bias to this thing, and notice that's why there's a lot of sales here, and there's not as many longs until we started trending again. But that's because this had a little bit of a bearish bias, because this trend line here is obviously in play when it turns down here, or at least you think it probably is. But when it comes back here, then you got to say, hey, this thing's in play. Although it didn't play out in the end, the range took precedence, because we got right back through here and the range was still in play. We ended up breaking higher. So it was not an easy day. So if you struggle to find some trades today, especially early on, you just had to sit here and that's the only really good early trade. And it was really 9, a little after 9 o'clock before you got your next trade. And even then, that one's, you know, in the kind of the no man's land where you got to be real careful. So it was just a difficult day, in my opinion, to find some good trades. But anyway, it is what it is. I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again Monday, but I'm actually, let me look at my calendar real quick. Okay, it looks like we will be trading normal day on Monday, and then Tuesday will be an early close at 12:15, 12 noon. Yeah, 12:15 equity products, 12:15, and then Wednesday the market will be closed, and it looks like Thursday is a holiday. Yeah, well, actually, I'm sorry. Here's Wednesday. Um, Wednesday we know will be a holiday because that's the 4th, and then Thursday looks like a regular day. So we'll be here Monday, and then next week I may be going on a fishing trip that weekend. So, and if I'm going, I'm leaving on Thursday, but I'm not sure if I'm going yet or not. And if I'm not, I'll be trading Thursday. So I'll definitely be in here Monday, and I'll probably know for sure then. So I may be taking off the entire week other than Monday. So, but we'll be back Monday anyway. I'm going to wrap it up for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.